If we're talking about divorce, fear is a really big theme, really big. I don't know that there's anyone that goes through a divorce not feeling some kind of that apprehension, the overwhelm, and the fear that grips you, the fear that asks, how am I supposed to get through this? How do I get my kids through this? What am I supposed to do next? Who am I without my partner after building a life around this dream, the dream that is going to cease to exist? There's so much fear. And the reason I wanted to talk about fear today is partly because I think that it's important to talk about, for us to start normalizing conversation around something like divorce, which is often so stigmatized that we don't talk about it. Usually it's one of the most difficult things that people go through, and yet we are so quiet about it. And people end up feeling isolated and lonely as a result. And fear is a big part of it. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of what will people think, fear that they're going to think that I can't be as competent in my work as I'm distracted, a lot of things. And at the heart of it, what's really interesting, I've been really thinking a lot about fear and studying my own fear that comes up lately. It's been quite some time since I've completed my own process of divorce, but fear still comes up, fear coming up in the context of, are you sure? Are you sure you got this? That little voice that kind of niggles at you in the back of your mind. The imposter syndrome, so to speak, that sometimes will creep up and whisper, sometimes louder than a whisper. And as I started doing my own work around it, so I'm a somatic trained practitioner. I work a lot with people going through divorce, parents particularly. And a lot of the work I do is, how do we become unshakable within ourselves? Like, how do we find that confidence, even in the face of fear? And how do we build those unshakable bonds with our children and teach them to access their inner authority in and of themselves and eventually become unshakable as well? And a lot of that is becoming aware of and facing our fears. And as part of that somatic practice, and the reason somatics is so powerful, I would say, in the context of working on fear, is it gets you right to the root of what is going on. Our mind chatters. Like, when we live in our heads, yeah, we can dig in and we can excavate and we can really notice and explore what's coming up for us. But when we're working with our mind and our body, well, now it's raw. Now it's deeper. Now we're getting to the heart of the issue. And what comes up for me lately is when that fear peeps its head. The thing that it says when I start interacting with it is, I just don't want you to make a mistake. I don't want you to fail. And the part that's a bit unspoken, that gets spoken when I do these explorations with myself, is, let's not do that. Let's not try. Because if we try, we might fail. And what's really beautiful about fear is it's actually looking out for us. It's actually trying to protect us from the things that really hurt or harmed us in the past. Fear is based on experience, in trying to avoid something from happening, even things that we might not have directly experienced. It may be the, I don't want to say opportunity, but maybe the possibility that something can happen. But when we start looking at fear from that lens, from the place of, oh, it's kind of trying to protect me, it's kind of trying to be there, standing up for me, well, all of a sudden fear is not an adversary that we're trying to get rid of. It's not something we have to overcome or overpower, resist or avoid. All of a sudden fear becomes an advisor who's saying, I'm worried about you, I'm trying to help, and this is what I'm afraid of. And it gives us the agency and the autonomy, and actually, in many ways, the authority to say, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for telling me what's on your mind. Thank you for trying to protect me. And in the cases that we choose, we can say, I got this. This is what I want to do. Because here's the thing, we might not fail if we don't try, but we also won't grow or change anything if we don't try. The two coexist. So by trying to avoid failure, we end up avoiding living, and truly changing and truly growing and designing the life that we want to design for ourselves, especially for those coming out of divorce. We're designing the new life. Creating the new life is the only option, because everything's changing, voluntarily or involuntarily. And how much of it do we want to be a part of in the change, especially when things are like your heart's getting ripped to shreds, the ground is falling apart under your feet, you feel really unstable oftentimes. And in the midst of that adaptation, it's not about control, but what it is about, what am I choosing? Because when we have choice, we have empowerment. Yeah. I was going to say a little bit more there, but I think I'm going to leave it there. So I've started to interact with my fear almost like it's an advisor or a butler. Like, thank you, or a steward, like, and I say steward as in, someone who's in this position trying to take care of you in place of you, or trying to take care of you in place of whoever was there before. Like maybe a parent that might have had that role before, trying to guide. But as we become adults, we actually don't need that anymore. And maybe our parents move on from that role, but inside us, at times, there's still that presence that steps in, that tries. And I'm starting to look at my fear in that way. And something's really changed ever since I did that, where there's just so much more ease, there's so much more flow. Now it's a conversation. Now it's openly just, let's put it on the table. Like, what is going on? What are we afraid of? Okay, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, what's the plan then? What do we want to do? What do I want to do? And you know what, fear? I got this. Why don't you just try to relax, calm down, take a seat, have some snacks, and watch me. Watch me win. And watch me do this. Because really, I got this. Something to think about.